Hi, and welcome to the Sage Advice series. I'm Maria Johnson, and our guest today is Katie Lovallo, a mental performance consultant and the founder of MindFit Performance. Why don't we start out with you telling me the story behind your profession and kind of your journey up to MindFit Performance?
So I played sports like growing up my whole life, and was fortunate enough to play sports in college. I played soccer and softball. I played kind of a little bit of everything growing up, and settled into soccer and softball in high school. Was blessed to be able to do that in college. So kind of always had an understanding and an appreciation for sport and what came with that, like commitment and dedication and work ethic and goal setting and all of those types of things. And I suppose kind of always recognize there as like physical components to sports, in addition to mental components. But I suppose maybe I'm going to age myself, but way back then, it wasn't like a prevalent field. Sports psychology wasn't a prevalent field. And so it
Mm,
was never really addressed. You kind of talk about focus and you talk about goal setting, you talk about confidence, but never really in any kind of depth or deep understanding with like what that meant or how to achieve those things. So flash forward, went to college, and my freshman year, 2 or 3 months into my first season, broke my leg
oh,
and was faced like with like my first real intense injury related athletic challenge. Kind of had bumps and bruises and sprained ankles along the way, but nothing ever really serious until that. And it was very challenging to say the least. It was, I had to have surgery. I was out of school for 3 weeks. I missed like the rest of my first year and really had to work hard to rehab and train back to be able
mm,
to compete and play again. And, in hindsight, that ultimately was the easy part. The hard part was once I was kind of cleared to play and the roller coaster of emotions and physical and mental challenges that come with returning to sport after injury. So I was dealing with some pain, and more than that, I was dealing with fear. I was afraid I was going to get hurt again. And I think deep down I had the tools to overcome that, but I didn't know it. And I didn't know how to channel them or what it was going to take to overcome the mental battles I was faced with. The physical battles like were hard, but I was in the training room and getting treatment and working with athletic trainers or physical therapists to kind of address those things. But the mental and emotional side was arguably harder. So to answer your question, that was kind of the starting point to me realizing how essential mental skills and the mental side of sport and the mental side of life is and
mm,
was. In my senior year in college, the where I went to school, we had 2 semesters, and then at the end of each semester, there's a 1 month period called May term. So our school graduated at the end of April, and then as a student there, you had to take 2 out of the 4 May terms. So my senior year, I took a class called sports psychology, introduction to sports psychology, and that was the like light bulb moment that I had. That was because I was a psych major in school and a physical therapy, or excuse me, physical education minor. But I didn't necessarily want to take like more traditional psychology routes like counseling
mm,
or therapy or any of those things. I wanted to, I was deeply connected as an athlete. Like that was deeply part of my identity. So to fall into this, like, hey, I'm taking sports psych class just as like, oh, it's a class to take, and it really clicking and feeling like home for me because it combined all the things I was passionate about, sport, aspects of psychology, and it kind of blended those things together. I was like, oh my gosh, this is it. This is what I want to do. And I was so grateful to have just decided to take that class that I decided to go get a master's degree in sports psychology, and thus the birth of MindFit Performance.
that's really cool. Would
So,
you say that what resonated with you so much was that personal experience that you went into the class with? Like The
Totally.
injury, yeah.
Totally. I mean, injury and just experience as an athlete. And sports psychology is parallel to performance psychology. Right now, they're separate fields, but they're very parallel. But the way I approach what my kind of philosophy of practice is these are life skills. So whether you're an athlete or beyond, these skills apply. And that's partly where it resonated too, because it was like, oh, like, this also could have helped me as a student. These things could have helped me in certain areas where I felt nervous or anxious for certain tests or projects or whatever. I could have applied the skills that I have now learned about post master's degree. These would have helped in lots of different areas and will continue to help in lots of areas of my life. You kind of have to have experience to undersee and have foresight and retrospect to like apply those different lessons. To your questions, yes. Um, you know, Personal experience and then like the eye-opening components of
Yeah,
what was just the basics of that class, like, oh, this is so cool. I love this.
that's awesome. How did you translate your own personal insights early on in your career to your client work?
I think like in any profession, there's like a professionalism that comes with it, right? Like
Yeah.
there's like boundaries of what that looks like and ethics that come along with it. And I think what's been helpful for me is, well, certainly like recognizing and maintaining like what is and what isn't professional or ethical, etc. It's being me. And I have found that resonates deeply with people because at the end of the day, my clients are people just like I am.
Yeah.
And one of the things we as humans strive for equally, I think, is connectedness and understanding. So, because of my athletic experience, and not just that, but just deeply because of my athletic experience, like deeper into my professional career than early on, now leaning on like personal experience too,
Hmm.
I use that as a way to resonate with clients. So, using my athletic experience is helpful when I work with athletes because we want to feel understood. And I understand
Yeah.
deeply. I understand whether you've been injured or not. I understand what it's like to stand at the plate with runners on first and second, and you're down a run, and it's the ninth inning, and there's two outs, and it's like you feel this pressure to perform, to give your team an opportunity to at the very least tie the game so it continues, but also win the game. Like I understand what it's like to win and lose and to achieve my goals and to not achieve my goals and how to navigate those things and work through them. And that allows me to resonate with clients. Early on, it was certainly harder to do that than it is now. I think the
Mm.
hardest part was always how do I connect with clients that I'm really not that different in age from? That was a challenge in the beginning. And how do I translate life lessons that I've had? Because no matter our age, we've had life lessons, but
Yeah.
age is what sometimes gives credibility, even though maybe someone younger than me has had more intense or more powerful personal life lessons. We
Hmm.
don't always give that the same credit as someone who's has age and the wisdom that comes with that. Um,
Yeah.
so part of it is certainly like using my own personal experiences with injury and in sport and in life to connect with clients. But I'm lucky enough to work with students still. I mentor and teach at the graduate level as well. So one of the things I talk to my students about all the time is like there's the textbook versions of what we learn and there's the real life versions of how we say it. So when you're
Yeah.
talking, right, you're not going to use marketing
Yeah. I
terminology with
rarely use marketing jargon.
but it
Yeah.
exists, right? It's the
Yeah.
same in psychology, it's the same in medicine, it's the same in this and that, right? It's like
Hmm.
how do we make it relatable and connected to someone so they understand it and not that we're talking down to them, but we're making
Hmm.
it like digestible. So
Yeah.
it's, you know, I could talk to you about transference and countertransference, but really what that means is us sharing commonalities. And sometimes you ever in a room with others and it's like you notice that there a group can start to behave the same.
Yes.
That's like a life way to describe a more complex term.
That
So
makes sense.
I think when because I work with a lot of youth, my kind of target client base is like late middle school through college. Those are
Oh.
the clients I work with the most. And what I talk to parents about a lot is that the brain, the adolescent and youth brain isn't fully developed until we're deep into our 20s and mid to late 20s. And so
Mm.
what we as adults view as rational, youth don't even have the ability to think that way yet. And we expect them to. And so in my work, I get to say, hey, guess what, parents? It doesn't exist yet. And hey, guess what, youth? Here's what's going on. Let's think about it. Let's work through it. Let's build our rationale like bridges a little more, but let's understand
Hmm.
that this is why we're being so emotional. This is why it feels so emotional. So coming at it, you know, from using my personal experiences is I could think back to moments with my parents as a middle school and teenager where there were expectations set about how I behave or you know why was I thinking a certain way without the understanding that I didn't have the ability to think that way yet. And I didn't understand that about myself. When I'm,
Yeah.
you know, when you're 12, 13, 14, 15, you don't know what you don't know, so you just exist, right? I could see
Yep.
it right now. The wheels are turning for you too. You're thinking
Oh
of those
yeah.
moments. And that's like becomes really those click. So early on, did I have that awareness or realization or even the methodology to teach that stuff? Definitely not. You know, you certainly need to grow and evolve personally, but also professionally. It's one of my mantras, ever evolving. I want to continue to learn and to grow and how I operated, you know, back in the early gosh, when I get out of school, like 2010, I got out of school in 2009, which feels like forever ago out of grad school. But you know, my approaches and have definitely evolved over the last 16, 18
Yeah.
years and how I teach and what I focus on. And, you know, I also have to stay up. It sounds weird to use the term trends, what's trending, but like what's currently the norm or
Mm.
abnorm for youth right now. In the
That
last
makes sense.
five,
Yeah.
10 years, there's a spike in anxiety and stress. It's through the roof. That wasn't always the
Mm.
case. So you have to evolve and you have to shift and adapt methodologies to meet your clients where they're at too. So hopefully that answers your question a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Mid response, something stuck out to me. When you were talking about your challenges, I'm curious as to how you overcame them in that moment that you were experiencing them.
Um, you know, if I get into a situation with a client where I don't know like where to go, like the beauty of how I approach things with clients is, you know, they typically are set up with a certain like a package, a certain number of sessions. So, some things like take time and you work with them and through them over several sessions. But sometimes in the moment, I've what I've learned, and this is like a maturity thing, when you ask me like how was it challenging early days compared to now? One of the areas I've grown in is to say, you know what? I'm not sure. Let me let that marinate for the next week until we meet again. Because I don't want to just give you a quick fix just to give you a quick fix.
Yeah,
This field doesn't typically involve quick fixes. It takes
makes sense.
time and it takes dedication and it takes trial and error because this isn't something that's cookie cutter. I can't, nor do I want to give you the same, oh, here, try A, B, and C that I give to person one, person two, and person three, because all four of you are very different. Several conversations in identifying directions to go and then prioritizing those directions. We might have very four directions to go, even if the general idea is confidence and stress and anxiety is the same for all of you. It won't look the same in how we approach it, right? Because we're individuals.
Yeah.
So in the moment, I'm now not afraid to say I'm not sure at this time. Like, let's continue to explore it. So on your end, here's something you can do between now and the time we meet, and here's what I'm going to be doing in between now and the time we meet next, and we'll come together with our ideas and we'll brainstorm some more because it's very collaborative.
Mhm.
So, you know, there's always challenges, and even still, there's moments in a session where I'm like, oh, I don't know. I don't know where we can or should go next. And I'm more comfortable sitting in that space now than I was in the
Nice.
beginning. I think
Yeah.
early practitioners were like, oh my God, I have to give them something and I have to do it and we have to fix it and we have to do it now. A lot of the mentees I work with in placements and internships have take that approach
Hmm.
because they're needing to accrue hours. So I understand it's a totally different beast there, but it's like I have to do something in every session. Whereas
Yeah.
more experienced practitioners are like, no, you don't. Like sometimes the growth is in just the conversation. There's not always a technique or a skill taught or addressed that day. Sometimes
Yeah.
awareness actually is a skill. We're not aware of something. It's very difficult to address it or change it or improve it. So that's
Hmm.
always the starting point.
I like that philosophy. Yeah. I know that you work with more than just athletes. I think it said on your website you also work with performers. Is there a difference in your approach with athletes and non-athletes, or do you feel like you kind of have a global approach that you can take?
That's a good question. I think in some components it's global.
Hmm.
Because like I said, performance is not sports specific. So whether you're, a singer, musician, or a dancer in the performing arts, or even in business of some kind, performance is not sports specific.
Hmm.
So the concepts and the are apply to both. They apply across the board. Um, I think the differences are sometimes how we approach them, or even sometimes the terminology, the examples. Now, I'm not a musician. I've never played an instrument. So it's an opportunity for me to allow, which is also things that I do, even though I have so much athletic experience and expertise. My clients are always the experts in whatever they're doing. So even if it's a sport, I know I work with a lot of softball and soccer players, two sports I know very deeply, but their experience as a softball player is their experience, not mine. And so helping them become an expert on them. Let's talk about this. Similarly, for non-sport performers. Talk me through performance for you. What does it feel like? What does it look like? Um, what are the components of it? I want to understand it from your eyes as much as I can. And by doing so, it allows me the space to understand how you think and how you approach things. And from there, we can, like I said, prioritize skills and techniques and tactics that would resonate and apply best for you right now. And I might come up with a list like, hey, here's the directions I think we can go. They will all be beneficial. And I might have a hierarchy in my mind of, I think this would be a great starting point. But I also like to give them the microphone in that space too. Not to, no pun intended, but hey,
Hmm.
what feels like most prevalent to you right now? Is it focus? Is it confidence? Is it nerves? What feels like the right starting point to you? And sometimes those things align and sometimes they're different, and it's okay. The mental performance doesn't always have like you have to do this and then you do that and then you do that because we're all different. And some of us might have experience or skills already in goal setting. So we don't need to touch that as deeply as someone who doesn't. We get to kind of build and put together our own recipe. And everyone's recipe is slightly different. Even if, like I said, even if we're all using the same ingredients, the recipe might be a little bit different. Um, so like, regardless of if you're an athlete or a non-sport performer, awareness is always first. We need to understand, you need to understand yourself. And by exploring that together, it helps me understand you. And then we can say, okay, here's the directions we can go. And then we decide the most prevalent and prioritize, and then we go. But we also need to understand like what is it, what is a win for you? And we all have wins in sport and life and professionally in our workspace. What does success mean to you? Like what does failure mean? So once I can understand those things, we can either work to reshape them because most athletes, you know, what's interesting in a lot of the youth that I work with when I ask, because I ask them one of the first questions, I have like a little like an intake form that goes through
Hmm.
and helps me understand like what are you looking for? Like let's go through like understand some areas, rate them in your area of significance. And then one of the questions I ask is, how do you define success? I want to know. And most youth have a very growth minded perspective of success. Some of them say
Aw.
winning, but most of them have this like to generalize, like to accomplish something I set out to do. Doesn't
Aw.
always, sometimes that includes winning, but doesn't, it wasn't just winning because there's so much more that takes place within performance that is successful. And those
Mm.
things stacked on top of each other can lead to winning, but don't guarantee it. It's tricky. Sports are tricky.
Yes. Yeah. There's a lot. It's there's a lot to think about.
But just like in a professional space, I might set out these visions and goals for myself, and I need to stack these small victories in order to get there. But that doesn't always equal, like a lot of us in workspaces are um, understandably seeking growth on the career ladder. I want to grow professionally. I want to get promoted. I want to get promoted. And these, I'm told by like superiors or like these are the things you can do to put yourself in a position for that in order to achieve it. And then we do those things that doesn't always equate to promotion, which is so
Yeah.
frustrating. Similarly to athletes, right? I do all these things and I have this roadmap of what to do, and it didn't like, we didn't win.
Mm.
Dude, is that a failure? So sometimes we're reshaping
Yeah.
those things. And so that's how it can apply across, um, you know, across all performances, performance based things, because everything is performance based,
That's really cool.
pretty
I mean,
much.
you even connected it to professional life. It's just basically building that foundation and that understanding slowly.
Mhm.
Like you said, slow process. It takes time.
Yeah,
What's one key mental performance technique you regularly apply to yourself to navigate your own journey?
deep breathing,
Deep breathing?
deep breathing daily, multiple times a
Really?
day. Yes.
How do
It
you do
isn't,
it? Do you just set aside time and like
well, let me tell you what life is like with an almost 3-year-old and an almost 1-year-old. There's no set aside time.
fair enough. Understandable.
The cool thing is you don't need to set aside time to like to really do it. It's nice when you have time. You can do it whether you have time or not. Um, Deep breathing in general is an underutilized skill that all of us have because we obviously are breathing to stay alive.
Yeah.
But breath work is one of my favorite and probably one of the most taught skills I use personally and with clients.
Oh wow.
The reason is it like, so I mentioned earlier, like one of the trends that has shifted with youth is this spike in anxiety, and a
Mm.
lot of that has to do with um, like athletic, academic, social pressures have shifted in a very pressure filled way over the last
Mm.
10, 15 years. And the way I was raised, and not like in my home, but also in sports, is very different how things are today. And a lot of youth from very young ages are not allowed to fail or face hardship. And so as they age into their preteen, teenage years, when they do fail or face hardship, it's very overwhelming and anxiety inducing. That being said, breath work is a really simple yet powerful way to re-ground yourself. Specifically deep breathing. Did you take science at all? I'm not going to get too science geeky for you, but like or
Um,
anatomy, like do you
in
remember
high
here
school, yeah.
do you remember hearing about your nervous systems? You have an automatic nervous system that like
Yes.
your and which is like your parasympathetic nervous system, things that just happen without you needing to do anything, like
Hmm.
your heart pumping and you breathing and all this functions that take place. So when you do deep breathing, specifically a deep slow inhale and a deep slower exhale, you trigger your parasympathetic nervous system, which is your body's natural calming system. So I'm giving you a little tool belt
Yeah, I'm like, let
tidbit
me
right
write this
now.
down.
Okay, so if you ever feel stressed or overwhelmed, it doesn't have to be like negative emotion, like excited, whatever, and you just need to come back to almost like a steady state, a
Mhm.
slow, deep breath. We start teaching it as a box breath, where if you imagine you can draw a box on your hand where you take um, a slow inhale for the.
Mhm.
Let's do a 4 count. We'll do it together. Are you up for that?
Okay.
Okay, so
Yeah.
we're gonna go. I'll do the count. You do the breathing. It's hard
Okay.
for me to talk and breathe at the same time. That sounds weird, but
Yeah.
okay. Slow, deep
All
breath on the count of 4. Ready? Inhale.
right.
1, 2, 3, 4. Hold it. 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 2, 3, 4. Hold. 2, 3, 4. So, like for you,
That's nice.
it's
Yeah.
nice, right? But we don't ever really dedicate purposeful and present moments to just breathe like that. Now, that was not a deep breath, that was a box breath.
Okay.
You can, as you build the skill, your time can lessen or increase based on your ability to hold your breath or feel comfort holding your breath or inhaling deeply. Eventually, the idea is for your inhale to be, I don't know, 4 to 6 to 8 seconds, and your exhale to be as long as it can, because that's what triggers your PNS and helps calm
Oh.
you naturally. So, stress hormones, right? When your stress spikes, it's cortisol through the roof. And that's your body's natural way of preparing for something. It's ingrained in us, it's part of our biology, dating way, way back to our caveman days, right? When it was truly fight or flight, but that's where it stems from. Today, when we feel stress and our cortisol levels spike, it's not in a fight or flight situation, but our body
Mhm.
thinks it is. So that's why it spikes cortisol and we feel stress.
Hmm.
Now, deep breathing is a way to override that. Okay, hold on. This is not a threat. I can handle this. I have the coping skills to do it. Let me calm myself down. Because what happens with stress? Our heart rate spikes, our breathing gets really shallow, our mind gets really frantic with all kinds of thoughts. This is a way for us to come back. So deep breathing is something I do all the time. And I don't like my stressors have certainly changed in the last 2 3 years. I have much less work related stressors and much more parenthood related stressors, but
Yeah.
breathing still applies.
Okay. That's awesome.
Yeah.
So, reflecting on your own journey, what would you say that your sage advice is, or what advice would you give to the you at the start of your journey?
Be patient. I know we talked a little bit about success and what it can look like and cannot look like, but
Yeah.
success is not an overnight journey. So be patient. Um, trust your training, because I think my early self was like, wait, you sometimes can get a little bit of like imposter syndrome. Like,
Mm,
should I do
yeah.
this? Can I do this? Do I know this? Like trust your gut. I think that applies professionally for me, but just like it does in life. Your
Hmm.
instincts and your gut's there for a reason. Like, embrace the journey, really. Like, embrace it. Embrace the growth and embrace your mottos like be ever evolving. And that certainly for me is like a roller coaster of motivation and time to
Hmm.
be ever evolving. Kind of embrace the ebbs and flows. This
Yeah.
field in particular, especially being in private practice, like you get out of it what you put into it. So success is a journey and what success looks like because it's different for each of us. How successful you are as a professional, it does not necessarily um, relate to the size of your practice.
Yeah.
And so kind of, you know, I think kind of one of the undertones to this is using personal experience professionally, and I think this is going to help with that too. So
Yeah.
continuing to grow and learn and evolve and um, mess up. Like oh, that's another one. Embrace failure. One of my models with clients is, we think of it as success and failure or winning and losing. And I change that for them. And I talk about it in terms of like winning and learning or learning and learning. There's something to learn from everything, whether you win or lose. So embrace that deeply.
That was an awesome talk. Thank you so much for joining me.
Yeah,
We,
no, like I said, I appreciate your patience in getting this on the books.
of course, for the end of the video, I usually give opportunity to give your contact info or whatever, just whatever ending message you would like. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I guess I should have said this at the beginning. My name is Katie, and I own a
Okay.
company called MindFit Performance. So you can find the website mindfit-performance.com. Email Katie at mindfit-performance. I'm on Instagram at mind_fit. Um, I'm also, I believe, it's on LinkedIn and Facebook as well, and Twitter. I'm less active on
Oh,
Twitter. But
okay.
yeah, I would love to hear from any of you that are willing to watch this and appreciate your time. And like I said, I could talk about this all day. So if you or anyone you know has could benefit from mental performance training, hit me up. Let's talk.